The transformation of going electric, it'll happen. And we made a clear decision for that.
We're getting the hybrid tech out of Hamilton's F1 car. Heard it from the CTO of AMG. We don't care about range, it's about performance.
I don't think anybody will say you're missing something here.
Hello and welcome to Autogefühl. I'm AJ and this is the all-new Mercedes AMG C63S E-Performance. If you're a follower of our channel, you would have seen very recently that we had a nice walk around with the pre-production version of this car, but we couldn't drive it. In fact, we couldn't even turn the engine on. Well, today that changes. I can't still drive, but at least we get to be driven in. And I'm really excited to see how that powertrain, the drivetrain, like we spoke about with the 2-liter Turbo 4 petrol engine and the F1 derived electric motor on the rear axle and this all-wheel drive system with, remember, a combined output of 680 horsepower, how all of that translates into motion. Let's take a closer look.
Now let's do a full ABS brake.
Okay.
Let's see what you feel.
Let me prepare myself. Oh,
Much smoother than you
very
usually.
smooth. So
He's complaining. You're not to go below 50 here. What we did in this maneuver, we recharged the battery while doing an ABS brake. That's really unique.
now that was what we were just talking about before, and it's quite phenomenal. And I'm not an electrical engineer or whatever. It's very interesting to see that you're able to regenerate so much energy.
Yeah.
I always thought, there's no way I can charge so much of the car battery back with just regeneration.
Right.
But it's possible.
Yes, and that's really what you have to do if you want to do electrification on a performance racetrack capable car. This is exactly what you have to do, and this is where all the know-how from the Formula One car comes into play.
No, you're absolutely right, because for performance, it cannot be that, my performance is going to get diminished because I used up the battery.
Right.
So you have to have at least enough battery for that launch to get the high 680 maximum output anytime.
Right, and this was a very good point that you just made. So now I'm going and race, right? And I have a function called boost.
Okay.
So at this point we had the full power on the rear axle. Now I'm pressing this button here. Now we're on the boost function.
Okay.
Now we are limiting the power on the rear axle to 50 kilowatt.
Okay.
So, and you will see, even with the 50 kilowatt, it's still a very sporty car. We're not really missing energy. We could still drive very dynamically. And now it's up to the driver to make the decision how he wants to deploy the battery energy. So we're still recuperating at full level all the time.
So recuperating as instead of an engine braking from the engine, it's actually just regeneration.
See, we're going up now, we were at like 40, 60, sometimes when we do big brakes, we'll go up to even 100. So now I have this boost function, as I just mentioned, and still I think, enough power.
Okay.
We can drive dynamically, there's no problem. But now I'm, let's say I want to do the kick down. Feel that?
Okay, so now we're putting more electric power.
Right. And this is another dimension that we now bring into this car.
Because like a DRS.
Right. Another part of like real future Formula One race functionality that we bring into this car.
Okay.
So like in a race, right? You would go here, see if you can manage the corner. And at the end of the corner, you would kick down and boom, you have this additional 100 kilowatt.
Yeah.
Now again, going into steep braking and we're recharging the battery.
So I'm guessing a lot of the braking is now the regenerative braking. How does that affect pedal feel?
I think we manage it quite well. Like in the ABS, it's a very stable pedal. You always, in my opinion, have the feeling that you know where you are while braking. That's very important. But because of this all-wheel drive and all the know-how that we put into this, I think the management between all these different interacting systems is handled pretty well. You'll feel that once you can drive the car. Driving fully electric, first thing that the former C63 couldn't do, and this time we bring some more features into this car. And as you can see and feel, of course, no combustion sound if you go electric, but also the smoothness of the riding. We put in it's not only that we turn off the engine, but it's like we try to give the car more comfort in this mode of going electric because, that's also the bandwidth of the car is much broader than it used to be. So also what you will see during this drive here, this Formula One technology you just mentioned, and the hardware, the most obvious thing is probably the battery. It's the same technology as we use in the AMG One and as we use them in the Formula One car. And because of that battery, we are able to go on a very high power level very constantly with energy in and out into this battery. And during this test drive, you will see the battery, we are now at, let's say, 55% maybe. And with this technology here, you will see with this battery technology that during this 20-30 minutes that we are gonna drive the car, it will charge and recharge fully, maybe at least one, probably very likely 2 times.
Oh, wow. Okay, so just with regen, it's able
Yes.
to get the entire battery back.
Right, and that's the very unique thing.
So coming back to the battery, I understand that the cells are cooled internally. So
Yeah.
there is a special fluid, not on the casing of the battery cells, but within the battery cells themselves in the battery pack.
Yeah.
Is because of this that you're able to push so much more regen power back into the battery?
Yes, that's the main reason. So we have these cylindrical cells. They're all, surrounded by this liquid that cools these cells to 45 degrees. So we're really actively keeping this constant temperature level.
Yeah.
That makes these cells operating in a perfect window, operating window, and therefore we can really on a high level charge and discharge these little cells. And this brings us to this outstanding performance, not only for acceleration, but especially for recuperation. And that's why I like to call this E-performance, not so much hybrid. Technically, yes, it is a hybrid because it's a combination of 2 different engine types. But with this E-performance that we have here, it's like we really only take care about the power. We don't really care about range, right? So we are at 58%.
Well, you heard it from the CTO of AMG. We don't care about range; it's about performance. And
Yes.
I know that's exactly how it should be. I think there are other models within the Mercedes family, not the AMG, with hybrids. If you want range, if you want that clean driving for longer, but here it is about. Well, it is definitely cleaner now that we have shifted to the 4-cylinder and not the V8 anymore. But we're getting the hybrid tech out of Hamilton's F1 car and not from
Yeah. And it's great that you're mentioning, because if you want to have range, there's a broad portfolio of Mercedes where you can have hybrids with huge ranges, which is perfect. But if you want to go on a performance side, it's performance that we take care of.
Right.
So, we have driven like 50 kph like in a city. Now we're on a little hill track here that you could simulate being outside. And remember, we're driving all-wheel drive with the, we're only going electric. We only have 150 kilowatt, which I think, looking at this dynamics here, it's a little wet, but all-wheel drive.
Yep.
And now let's see how much we can get going up this hill here. The limit in Germany outside is 100 kph. Yeah. We're at 100 and we're probably up to 110. See, 108. And now watch this, it's 4-wheel drive. I regenerate a lot while braking. Once I'm not doing anything on the steering wheel with my hands, I just put it around the corner, and you can also feel the dynamics that is still here even though we go electric.
So the motor is on the rear axle. I think that's one of the key points to having this very dynamic balanced chassis along with that AMG battery pack. So you're getting that weight on the rear axle. You have the rear axle steering and then the 4-wheel drive. And even though the electric motor's in the rear axle, it can also push power to the front with the 4MATIC Plus.
Exactly. So it's a fully variable all-wheel drive.
But then I can imagine now you need a lot of software to manage the motor, the battery, of course the electronically actuated limited slip differential, this 4MATIC Plus. There's a lot of software, so I'm guessing a lot of development and testing went into that. How was that process?
We learned a lot from the One, and it's not a real secret that it took us a while to get the One figured out.
Right.
But there is so much Formula One software, so it's really not only the hardware, maybe even more software that went into this car. And we really, this is, AMG always takes care of driving dynamics software on the ESP side, where we do much more than just stabilizing the car. We're agilizing the car. And now we have the combination of these 2 different powertrains. And that really took us a very hard time to figure this all out. And you know, with all these different driving modes that I'm about to show to you, you will see how much more we put into this car. But speaking of how much more, maybe we can turn on the engine.
Yeah, let's
Right.
hear it.
So now we have a total different car.
So I do hear the engine note being pumped in through the speakers. Is there some kind of a resonance actuator or some kind of a microphone that helps the sound?
There's kind of a microphone in the exhaust system. So we're taking the real signal and just like emphasizing, enhancing it, so that the power which this car has with like 608 horsepower really fits to what you, the performance is. So
Yeah.
it's also about the emotional part of the car, right?
Absolutely. Performance and numbers is just one part. And I think, you know, unfortunately, in electric cars, you tend to lose a little bit of that emotion because you have more of the numbers. And it's really important now, and this kind of ties into how the new C63S E-Performance is the new paradigm, the new age, the new era of AMG at this level, because you're using the hybrid for more performance, but also digitizing and using software to enhance the emotion as well.
Right. And you know, this is also very important for us as a company, because the transformation of going electric, it'll happen. And we made a clear decision for that. That's why we introduced this powertrain in this car. Of course, people say, oh, you know, it used to be a V8, but hopefully it works out in the next 20 minutes that I can show to you how much more people will have with this car.
Right.
We're going into a new kind of game. That's, you know, I like this game-changing thing, because now we're adding features to the car that we couldn't have. Not only all-wheel drive, not only going fully electric and so forth, but also things we know from Formula One, like managing energy. And managing energy gonna be very crucial for your future success as a company when you probably have a sports car going fully electric. So everything we do here also, you know,
You're already investing into the future. With
right.
this.
And it basically really started with the idea with the one that, you know, now turned into the GT 4-door. Now it's in the C63. And this is, that's a very important part for us.
We have the engine on now. There is more F1 tech in this as well, right?
Yes, absolutely. I think the main part you just wanted to mention is the electrified turbocharger.
Right.
And it's on a 400-volt electric motor. So again, high voltage on the turbocharger. And this really enhances the combustion engine one more time. And it's a perfect match to the electrification on the rear axle. And you know, I think still enough emotion, right? All-wheel drive, easy to handle.
Yeah. The rear axle steering also
Yeah.
makes it more playful.
Right. I don't think anybody will say you're missing something here.